Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I hope all my mini bike loving friends out there are doing well. I was under the weather for a few days, nothing too serious, not the big C word. Just had a head cold and didn't feel like getting into the shop for a few days, so I haven't had a chance to touch much on the little Honda that have done a video or two on, this little Z50. Now I did get a little bit of work done. See on the table here, we've got a few parts cleaned up. I kind of went halfway. A lot of guys were saying, hey, do a full restore, which, I really don't do. Some guys were saying just leave it alone and let's just see what it takes to get it back up and going. So I went about halfway. You can tell I've painted the frame and I cleaned up some of the parts. The engine, I won't get it in the picture. I won't say I cleaned it up. I just knocked the dust off of it. Obviously, I have not painted the forks or the tank or anything like that. We're not going to, at least not on this round. So I'm kind of thinking let's just go ahead and put it back together, see what it looks like, call it done, and then maybe in the spring we'll revisit it and pull it back apart and maybe give it a proper rebuild. I don't like using the word restore. I don't restore bikes. I've had a couple questions on the channel recently, hey, why don't you do a video on this and, or a video on that, and it involves high dollar parts. And I don't use that type of stuff. Like I tried to tell these guys, my videos revolve around I hate to use the word cheap, but I like to build bikes as inexpensive as possible, and I use a lot of used parts. I've been collecting parts for right at 30 years. So as of right now, I don't have a dime in this bike, and you're going to see some parts that weren't on the bike in the first couple videos, and that's because I happen to have them in stock, and that's for you guys that are going to build multiple bikes and you don't want to spend a lot of money doing it. I know it's getting harder to do. It was easier, 15, 20 years ago. But man, I would buy up every used part I could find. And I've got a pretty good stash, and it makes it really handy for when I go to put these bikes together. And I tell you what, I'm going to pop you in a stand so I can, and show you the parts, and so I can use both of my hands instead of holding this, tripod thing. And because there's a couple parts that we're going to put on this bike that aren't even Honda parts. Let's put you in the stand and be right back. All right, so between the last video that I posted and when I got the head cold and wasn't feeling well, I did take a couple hours one day and gathered up all the parts for the bike and kind of started cleaning them up and making them a little bit more presentable and getting some things ready for today's video where we were just going to reassemble. Now, I didn't film any of this. It was just a matter of, cleaning stuff up. You'll see some items I painted. Like the shocks. Obviously, these are supposed to be chrome. The chrome was gone. There was no bringing it back. So I just taped off and painted. I gathered up a few parts, like this side case. If you look at the videos before, we were missing the side case off the engine. It's cracked, and it's missing one ear, but 2 bolt holes will hold it. And it's stuff like this that I buy whenever I see it, hopefully get it for a couple bucks. Things, what I really want to show you were things like this. We had a tail light that was kind of mangled. I salvaged the bracket that mounts to the fender, but this is just a trailer tail light, and I kind of modified the mount of it to get it to mount to our bracket so it can sit on the, sit in the original spot. Yes, I know it's not the right light, but you know what? I really don't care. It'll have a light on it, and it'll be just fine. Same way with this. This headlight, it's the right width. It fits between the fork ears, but yes, it's not a Honda light. It's just so happened it was a 6-volt light, so I didn't even have to change the bulb. But I go to garage sales a lot. I pick up a lot of this type of stuff for a couple bucks here, a couple bucks there. My father worked at a scrapyard for 40 some plus years, and he and I have this thing about lights. We pick up lights whenever we find them. You know, like there's a box there that came from a garage sale for $5, and it's just got, you know, little odds and end lights. I don't know if any of you have seen, you know, I have a collection of different stop lights, and for some odd reason, we just like lights. And so we pick them up whenever we can. Now, I didn't paint the wheels or do any of that, cleaning up. They're really in kind of rough shape. It's going to need new tires. And actually, you can see if you look right there on that rim, it's got a pretty rusty, it's rusted through there. It's holding there. We're going to put it on the bike for right now and ride it. Like I said, maybe next spring we'll come back and give it a proper rebuild and put new tires and rims and so forth on it. But one of the other things I do, I had a set of the correct handlebars, and it even had the grips and the throttle and the throttle cable. Now, the sheathing that was on the wires was shot, the gray sheathing. So I took it all off, and I just put black shrink wrap on the wiring to kind of clean it up and make it look better. And when I did that, I went ahead and just put shrink wrap over the throttle cable and the front brake cable. And I just cut a length of, I buy shrink wrap in all different diameters and buy it in 50-foot rolls, and then just cut off whatever I need, take a heat gun and shrink it down. So we should have handlebars, a fender. The wiring harness was actually in pretty decent shape. I had a couple spots where I had to repair it, but for the most part, it was in good shape. I didn't I probably should have cleaned up the coil wire. I didn't. I left it alone. But anyway, I'm going to, and these are the parts that I have ready. I don't have the tank, the exhaust, and the seat ready, so we are not going to install those today. What you see here is what we're going to work on. We're going to put the engine in the frame, swing arm, and bolt on these parts, and then we will get to the rest of it in the very final video. So there's going to be one more video on this bike. So let me get you put back in the stand and get set up, and we will start assembling this bike. Now, I don't build a lot of Z50s, so I may put things together in the wrong order and then have to back up and punt and do all those things. I apologize if we do. I just don't build enough of these to know that, you know, if I put this part on, am I interfering with the next part or whatever. So and I didn't get very many tools out. I didn't get like screwdrivers or a little hammer. But this has been a fun little bike to work on. I'll be really excited when I finish getting it put together, because it was so rough looking. I'm excited to see, even without painting, you know, the forks and the tank, and see how much better it looks. What have I got going on here, fellas? Need to come in from that direction first. Is that? And the big challenge too might be remembering what goes where, because I'm not familiar with these. All right, I think actually before we put the fender on, no, I can put the tail light on. You know, something I didn't pay any attention to. I kind of had it in my mind that the fender, that this bracket mounted up here where the shock bolts went through, and it doesn't. It actually mounts on the back. Let me get the camera here. We're gonna have to maybe work on something real quick. I'm unprepared. I was thinking that this on the fender was where the bolts for where that one long bolt for the shock is, and obviously it's way too narrow for that. I don't know why I thought that. So what it does, it sandwiches, but see how big that hole is in here? So there must have been a rubber bushing in here to kind of as a dampener, and I didn't have that. Okay. All right, well, we are going to dive into the stash of parts and see what we can find to see if we can fix that. All right, I keep a little divider thing here. Those are for tanks. That's for a... See, something like that, but that's way too wide. There we go. I don't know what those have been, that's been cut off of. Is there another one? Yeah, my luck, we'll find one. No, wait a minute. I think that's what we're gonna need. We're gonna need to push out that little, I'm hoping that that little centerpiece pushes out, and then we can get those out of there. Let me get set up. Just got you sitting on the workbench. Hopefully it doesn't shake too much. Yeah, so that just pushes out. Oh boy, can we get, how stiff is that? Can we get them out? Oh, and I ripped it. I didn't want to rip it. Crap. I haven't ripped it completely yet. Yet. Pretty much though. Oh, that's a bummer. See if I can get it in here without ripping it the rest of the way off. Probably just looking at my arm, aren't you? You know what? I think that might work. And then we can just stick a bolt through that. we're gonna give it a go. I'm gonna all right, what's the secret of getting something like that out without ripping it? Oh, it's pretty brittle. It's already got a lot of cracks in the... All right, you saw me do it once. I'm gonna pop that out of there. All right, we were somewhat successful in getting those put in there. Now, then I run into another problem. There on the little bracket that sticks out here, it has a welded on nut, but the size that it, oh, and I just broke the rubber the rest of the way off. Bummer. Oh well, we'll still, hopefully it'll stay in the hole well enough, centered in that hole to kind of hold it. By using the pieces that I used, I can't put the correct size bolt that actually threads into these through there. So I'm just going to stick a longer bolt through it and then put a nut on the back side. And I'm thinking that's the way it was when I took it apart. I don't remember, because I don't find hardware for that. Come on, go on there. And there are two threaded holes down here at the bottom for the bottom part of the fender. You know, this bike fought me the entire time I took it apart. And for some odd reason, I get the feeling it's going to do the same thing going back together. It just doesn't. Things just aren't working for me. There we go. But I was surprised I was able to straighten this fender up. It had a, I don't, if you go back and watch the first video, it had a pretty bad dent here and a break in it, and so I welded it back up and got it to look decent for what we're doing. I cannot use a ratchet today. Okay, and then the tail light, I'm not sure where the wire goes. I'm going to put it underneath the frame. It just goes, there are two holes in the fender, and then there are threaded inserts on the bottom of the tail light. We don't need that long of a bolt. Find something a little shorter. There we go. Let's see, while we're back here, let's just go ahead and maybe finish off the back, get my master link facing the right way. See, that's that really long bolt. What I don't know is how many washers. I'm going to say it's probably got a washer on each side. That's what we're going to do. May or may not be correct, but that's... And unlike a CT70 shock, which has a little cutout, I'm not sure that that these need to be clocked a certain direction. Looks like they can go on either way. Didn't think about it. Is there a top and a bottom? I'm going to say with the shorter wrap spring, that's maybe the top. And the bottom, yeah. I don't know. I'm not going to act like I do know. I'm going to put it on this way. Is that the same way I did the other one? Yeah. If it's wrong, somebody will tell me. And I am one washer shy. See if I got another one here. It's a little big, but we'll put it on there for right now. Okay. I did put, you know what I said, didn't have any money in this. I did put brand new brake shoes on the back because they were so worn they didn't do anything. And I don't know if you remember from the first video, it was so the threads on the adjuster, it was screwed all the way up about as far as you could get it because there were no brakes. All right, which one is the back axle? There's two different length axles. Gonna say that's the front one. It's got a little spacer on it, which I'm assuming goes back here. It doesn't have a bolted on brake stay like a Trail 70 does. The brake plate has a slot, and then on the swing arm there's a little post that sticks out that this slides onto, and that's what keeps the whole thing from spinning. Let's see, I better get my chain up here. on, get on there. All right, put this little spacer. Can I get it back in there, or do I need to have it in there before I do all that? I'm gonna have to have it in there before I do all that. Take the chain off at the front and slide it back. There we go. Let's try this for what, the third time? Okay. Slide it forward enough to put the chain on. All right, we need a brake adjuster on there. Gotta go a little higher. There's a brake adjuster on this side. Chain adjuster, I shouldn't say brake adjuster, I guess. Okay, I'm gonna come around to that side and we're gonna put the brake parts on. Brake pedal. Tools out of the way. Maybe I need to have the shock out of the way to get that on. No, I think I can wiggle it. We might need to have the stand out of the way. The pedal is just held on with a washer and a cotter pin. There is a return spring. Before I put all that on, I am missing a part. I'm missing the barrel. Missing the barrel that goes through the brake arm, that then this rod goes through that barrel. It's got to be over here in this little pile of parts somewhere, I would think. Well, wonder what I did with that, because I'm pretty sure I had two of them. I've got one on the front brake cable, so that was the one that came from there. But I have misplaced that barrel. Let me dig through some of my parts. I've got to find another one. That's the little part I'm talking about. I don't know what I did with the one off the bike, but luckily I had a few of them, and that fits in here. Then the brake rod fits through the hole through the center of that. So let's set you back down because it's going to take both hands. we've got the return spring for the brake pedal. Looks like it maybe goes this way. And there's a little post that sticks out on the frame that it has to hook around. Yeah, there's a little post on the frame. There we go. It hooks around, so we got that. All right, that'll need to be adjusted up, but we can work on that later. Okay, let's put the coil mounts up underneath this section of the frame. There are 2 posts on the coil that stick up through the frame, and then it just has nuts that go on it. What I don't remember is I think the spark plug wire just runs along. I don't think it feeds through any of these holes or anything. Would it? Would it have done that? I don't. Well, maybe. Let's see what it looks like. There again, no, that's bending it sharper than what it acts like it wants to, like it had been bent before. That feels right. That's got the right curvature of the spark plug wire to go around the frame. That all feels about right to me. So that's what we're going to go with. And the coil gets its ground from the frame here. That's why it only has 1 wire, because it's grounded through the frame, and the engine, everything's all grounded through the frame. So if we have problems, I may have to come back and look at that and make sure I didn't get too much paint to keep that from being grounded. Okay. Little bitty simple wiring harness. All right. There is a hole with a grommet right there, and there's a hole with a grommet right here. Did that frame? Okay. I'm wondering if these, hang on just a second. I think maybe all this goes down through here. That gets grounded. That probably goes onto one of these from the coil. Okay, oh, there it goes. This is the plug that the coil wire plugs into. Am I not on the right path, guys? not much room up in there to grab it, that's for sure. Okay, there we're going. Okay, so if we go to about right there, is that going to reach into the headlight? That acts like it wants to be on that side, the way that has the... All right, let's see what else we got here. This is the wire that hooks to the tail light, and I got a little extra. I wasn't sure how long it needed to be. This was cut here at the frame, and there weren't any wires sticking out past the frame out of the harness, and so I added a length of wire. Well, then the wire that was on this light is fairly long, so between the two, we've got way more wire than what we need to go to that tail light. But that's okay. I wonder if we can run it up and around that frame. Oh, you know what? There actually is a little wire. There's a little wire holder up in there. Okay, so, I bet this ground comes up through that other grommet and connects right there. So let's take that one back off. And that will kind of give us an idea of where the rest of the harness, Okay, so that goes there. Let's plug the wire from the coil into the harness. Okay. That gives me a little bit, okay, that feels a little bit better. Is there any kind of wire? Oh, it's on this side. It is on this side of the frame. I kept thinking, it felt like that the wire harness was supposed to be on this side because of the bend in the wire that goes down to the engine, but there is a little wire holder on the left side of the frame, so this all must be on the left side. Push that little wire holder up. There is a little clip that when you make this connection between the engine and the frame, or engine and the wiring harness, let's plug these together. You know, we've never heard this engine run through the wiring harness. We only heard it run when we wired the engine directly to the coil. Now I've got a broken, I'm not going to put that up in there yet. I've got a broken chunk corner off of the little plastic plug that comes up out of the engine. And I think I'm just going to wrap that with some tape so I don't get anything shorted out against that because this fits all up in here, something like this. And before I do all that, I think I want to wrap that. So, all right, now I was back here and I felt like there was a wire tie back here. Let's plug this light in. Actually, yeah, let's go and plug it in. And put it above that. There we go. Push that up against the frame. Not bad. I think that's pretty close to how it goes. I think so anyway. All right, I think we are ready to move to the front of the bike. The front tire and the things that go on the front. Now, obviously, I haven't been tightening anything down really. I tightened the fender down because it was going to be hard to get back to it with the wheel in place. But none of the rest of this has been tightened. I'll go through and make sure all that is, swing arms tight and all that is correct. We are not going to start the bike today because, like I said, we'll do that in the last video when we get the seat and the tank, some of those things done. So, all right, let's move up to, let's get a wheel in it so we can get the stand, this lift out from underneath it, so we can get the wheel into wheel chalk, and then maybe we'll take on the handlebars. I'm going to come around and make sure, see what you guys are, where you're looking, since I had you focused on the back. Let's go, let's back you up a little bit. I should have spent some time and cleaned the wheel up, I guess. It looks pretty nasty. All right. If you remember right, this bike had a wrong front wheel on it. It had a wheel from some other brand of mini bike, and we realized that when we saw the cable stay for the front brake cable. There's on the Honda, there's one that's welded to the front fork, and then on that other wheel there was also one on the brake plate, and you can see on this brake plate there isn't one. So that definitely was a wrong wheel on the front. Now we've got the same thing as what we had in the back. There's a post that slides in. I'm going to raise this up a little bit, but I don't know what I did with my tool. There it is. Hang on a second. What I don't know is how many, there were all kinds of washers and things on the axle from the other tire. I don't think I need any of that. I think this should just, there is a spacer on the other side of this wheel. Okay, we may put one on the outside there. Okay, that doesn't look too bad. Got that on there. Let's move up and put the top plate. Got to lift it back down. We've got it raised up so high that there they are. The fork tubes were down inside. All right, so we've got Use that as a start. Got a washer and the nut here. Did I grab the wrong? Huh. Was thinking that was a 29 millimeter. Is that not 29 millimeter? Certainly doesn't look like it. It is on a CT70. Now that's odd. You wouldn't think that they would use two different sizes, a Z50 and a, but this is the nut I took off of this bike. Now I just used an adjustable wrench when I took it off. I didn't actually use a socket, but that must be, I don't know if all Z50s are that way, but this particular Z50 must have a 30 millimeter nut, because the 29 that I normally use on a CT70 does not fit. All right, I got a frog in my throat. I'm gonna get a drink of water. I'll be right back. All right, sorry about that. Now, if you recall, in the last video when I tore this bike down, I broke the knobs. One of the plastic knobs just broke in half as I was trying to get it loose. And I wasn't then able to extract the bolt out of the handlebar pretty easy. The other knob, I broke the bolt off. I haven't attempted to get the broken bolt out of the other handlebar yet. I had another set of handlebars, and so I just said, you know what, heck with it. Whoa. So what I'm doing is, since I don't have knobs, I've just got a bolt that is a length that will work. Oh, thought it was a 14 millimeter. It must be 13. So instead of knobs, you know, I've just got a bolt that runs up there and tightens up against it. That'll work fine for what we're doing with this bike. Yeah, we'll have to take the lens off to run all that wiring up there, but let's get the headlight put on. Scratch all the paint off of it while we're trying to get it on there. Oh, went too far. Get that right there. Did I bring a screwdriver? Let me grab a Phillips screwdriver. I can't wiggle that over a little bit. Line it up just a little bit better. There we go. All right, what do we need? We actually need a straight screwdriver to, but that broken one is not gonna get it. Right. These are the wires from the, how do I want to run those? Let's go down inside the handlebar. Yeah, that's better. These are the wires from the on-off switch for the headlight. And it just so happens this headlight that I have, it just had one wire also, so it doesn't have a high-low beam either. It says Milano, Italy. So I'm not sure what this headlight's off of. Oh, focus there. I don't know if you can read any of that. If anybody has any idea what that might be off of, it's kind of a neat little headlight. Let's see, these are the wires for the kill switch. And let's do the same thing, run them down through the inside of the handlebars. And then in through the hole in the back. Yeah, but garage sales are fun, and you go around and pick up these lights and different little gadgets that I try and use on bikes. And yeah, I know they're not correct, but hopefully the bike looks better with a reasonable facsimile of the original headlight than with no light at all. Okay, we do not have very many wires in this wiring harness. There is a green that has 2 females. We need one of those for the green wire that comes down out of the kill switch to send the kill switch to ground. So we're going to plug that in there. The other one, I'm going to assume, would have come off of the headlight, the ground for the headlight, but this particular light is grounded to the ring. So we're going to hope that it continues to ground through the headlight bucket and then the frame and so forth. If for some odd reason, when we get all this going, I've checked the headlight works. If it doesn't work, it may be because we're not having a good ground, and I may have to run a ground from the headlight bulb itself, the socket itself, to this ground. For right now, I'm not going to do that. We're going to hope that it's going to get ground through the frame. All right, so the kill switch, the other wire to it is a black wire, and there is one black wire in the harness, and they match up, male and female. So we'll plug those together. Now our headlight, the headlight on-off switch has a red wire, which there is one red wire in the harness, and they match up male, female. So we're going to plug those together. And then the other wire from the headlight switch is a brown wire. I've got to get my thinking cap on here. What kind of wires do we have? They all look brown. One of them has to go to the headlight. Okay. The way I think this works, if I remember right from when I had this, when I was looking at this harness, these two brown wires are connected together back here in the back part of the harness, and then they also go to the brown wire that goes to the tail light. So power, when the engine's running, the stator is going to send power up the red wire of the harness. It is going to go continue into the red wire of the on-off switch. In the off position, it dies up here at the switch. When you switch it to on, the power then continues down this wire, the brown wire of the switch, and so it needs to be plugged into one of the brown wires of the harness, which now, when the switch is in the on position, now the power is going out through the harness and on back to the tail light. And because these two brown wires are connected back here in the harness, it will also come back up and then feed the headlight. Yeah. And that is it. That's the only wires that this bike has. All right, how does this go back together? So this hook's on the top. And that pops in place right there. I'm not pinching any wires that I see. We will put our screw back in. Maybe. Okay. Throttle cable. I probably should have wound that down through there before I put the handlebars on. That's going to go something like that. And then down to the carburetor. Okay. So I think the last thing that we are going to do today is see if we can get the brake cable on. They're a little bit of a pain in the butt. I'm gonna pick you up just for a second, kind of show you what we're looking at. All right, so here's the brake stay. And you've got a hole, and then you've got an open slot. I'm trying to do it with hold the camera and on the cable. I'm getting a glare and I'm having a hard time seeing it, sorry. So right there on the cable is a spot where there is no threads, and it's a little smaller diameter. And that is what gets pushed through that slot, and then the threads fall down, and then this nut gets screwed or gets threaded up, and then you go past the spot where there's no threads, and then it catches the threads again and sandwiches this stay between this hex part and that nut. So I don't know if I can get you guys in a place where you can see it and I can get my hands in there to do it. You might just be looking at my hands a lot, I don't know. We'll try it here, see what happens. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I said that wrong, actually. It's the cable that you got to slide through there, and then that pops down. Huh, so why does it have that spot? That's interesting. Maybe somebody in the comments can tell me why it has that little spot without the threads. I was thinking that that's what slid through that slot, but it's not. You have to pull it down far enough to get the cable to slide through there. Okay, so I'll wrestle with that. I'm sure you're probably not looking at the rest of that. Oh, no, I guess you were. So we've got a little barrel that fits in here. We've got a spring. That fits on there. Our adjuster. Fits on there. And I don't have that underside nut. It hit a thread that it didn't like. I forgot to do this. The cable, hopefully I can do it without having to take it back apart. The cable has to go down through this, up through this hole. So I'm gonna set you down so I can use both hands and see if we can feed that in there without damaging the cable or anything. Oh, is our headlight too big to... No, it's just, it's not getting it by there. There we go. That's not bad. I found a lever that we can back you up. Come on, get on there. Around the other side. Open the hole. There we go. There's a small nut you can put on the bottom. And guys, I don't know who's beeping out there, but okay, I think we're going to call that done for tonight. Not bad. She's starting to look like a bike again. You know, I like the way that headlight looks on there. Looks, you know, somebody didn't know. They might think that's the right one. The tail light, obviously, we got a little funkiness going on here because there's a little bit of gap between there, but that's just the way that bracket lined up. But, you know, that's going to be just fine. So I'll take a few minutes and go through it and tighten down all the hardware since we just kind of hand put everything together. I still haven't found a chain guard in my stash, and I have not found a side case. If you can see here, these three little grommets, it had a plastic side case that went on it. So still have to find that. So anyway, so that's where we're at right now. We still have these items over here. Oh yeah, I forgot about the front fender. I do not have a front fender for one of these Z50s. I do have a ton of CT70 fenders, but as you can see, they interfere with the head before you can get them up in there. So they take a slight trimming modification on the back here, and then that will bolt right up there. I'm using this one. The reason I don't mind trimming it, it already has a couple holes. You know, I wonder why people put holes in things like this. I don't know what they would have. I mean, the holes aren't even, you know, they're all cattywampus, and so who knows what was on there. So that's why I don't have an issue with cutting that up and getting that to fit. So in the next video, the last video, we'll put that on, trim that up, put it on there. We've got to figure out what we're going to do with this. We may cut some of this out and weld in a spot. It's got all kinds of, I got a feeling when we cut this open, we're going to have all kinds of stuff fall out of it. We need to come up with something to recover this seat. So I've been doing some thinking on I don't have a seat cover, and I'm not going to buy a seat cover. I know they're not that expensive, I know, but I just figured it might be fun to come up with something else. Wow, I didn't realize how rotted right there is, but you know what? It'll be all right. We'll get it to work. And then the tank. The tank wound up being in much, much worse condition than what I thought in those first couple videos. As you can see, all the pinholes. Look at all the holes in that. So, off camera, I have cut the entire bottom off of each side of the tank and welded in new metal, and I have filled it with water, and it does not seem to leak as of right now. Now you will notice it doesn't have a petcock yet. So I took this little piece right here. So once I put the tank on there, I can put the petcock wherever I want. Obviously, we're not putting an aftermarket engine with a bigger carburetor, so we're not going to have any interference, but we'll probably put it back. It originally was right here where you see this. See that the reason it has this little spot right here, this is where the petcock was. But that's not where we have to put it. So we'll see. We'll do that. So in the last video, that's what you're going to see. Work on the tank, do the last final bits of that. We're going to cover the seat. We will do some fab work and modifications to the exhaust. And we will do some minor modifications to that fender. And then we will be ready to fire it up and hopefully take it for a spin. And in that time, hopefully, maybe I can find those last couple pieces that I'm missing. So, guys, I appreciate you following along. I didn't put that on. So we've also got that will go on there. Appreciate you following along, comments, subscribe. If you like the video, give me a thumbs up, whatever. I appreciate those. And so it'll be a few more days and we'll do another video. See you later. Thanks.